today. You know, I'm a history teacher by profession, and whenever I began my American history classes, I would always say that democracy is at the same time the best and the most fragile form of government on earth. The best and most fragile because it depends on an active, engaged citizenry. And I want to thank the National Organization for Women for its commitment to civic engagement. So I got involved in politics when I was 16 years old. My high school social studies teacher invited me to be involved in a campaign for Katie McWatt. She was running for city council in St. Paul, Minnesota, where I grew up. She was the first African-American woman to run for that office. And so I called folks on the telephone and got my friends and family to put out yard signs and stuffed envelopes and did all the things you do in a campaign. And unfortunately, we got to the eve of the election and Katie McWatt didn't win. But I decided that I love politics, and when I came to Chicago to go to college, I worked in political campaigns in my neighborhood for many years. And actually, I am proud to say that I worked for Carol Moseley Braun when she ran for the State House of Representatives in 1978. So she served many years in the state legislature, and then in her kitchen, we talked about her run for Recorder of Deeds, countywide office, and then, of course, her run for the United States Senate. So I'm proud to have been a supporter of her since 1978. So as I said, I'm a teacher by profession, and I've always said that being a teacher is great preparation for public life. If you can manage a classroom of teenagers, you can do just about anything, in my view. And you know that each class has its own personality, and your charge as a teacher is to try to explain complex issues in ways that your young people can understand. And when they're clearly not getting it, when it's not resonating, to figure out how to turn on a dime and explain things in a concise way that will reach them. So, and that's of course what you have to do in public life as an elected official. You have an obligation, I always say, not just to do the right thing, but to explain what you're doing, to engage people, to involve them, and to be sure that they have the best possible understanding of the course that you've tried to take. I was elected in 1991 to the position of Alderman of the 4th Ward, representing 60,000 people in Chicago. It was my third run for office. I ran in 1983 and I lost. I ran in 1987 and I lost. I won in 1991 by 109 votes out of 11,000 cast. And so when I talk to young people, I talk to them about the importance of being persistent, and I also talk to them about the importance of their vote. Because if 100 more or less people had stayed home that day or not come out to vote for me, I never would have embarked on this amazing political career. So I'm very grateful to those 109 people, wherever they are, for their support. I decided after almost 20 years in office, by having worked on community development and education, affordable housing, public safety, that I was looking for another challenge, and I decided I'd run for president of the county board. The incumbent was clearly not going to win re-election, and I knew that there was nobody else who had the same commitment that I did to providing health care for the uninsured and the underinsured, which was a third of the county's budget, or trying to be sure that our criminal justice system was both more fair and just. And that was 40% of our budget. 3/4 of the county's budget is public health and public safety. And it's been quite a roller coaster for the last 2.5 years, struggling in a difficult economic climate to balance our budget, trying to institute performance management. So it may not surprise some of you, but in Cook County we didn't have any performance management, so you couldn't. When I came in, I said, how much does it cost us to send out the tax bills? How much does it cost us to fill potholes? What does it cost us to deliver the services we're delivering? And of course nobody could tell me. We also had government that had, very few of our departments had job descriptions or annual performance reviews, or any of the things that people kind of take for granted in the private sector or in well-run government. So it's been quite a challenge. But let me talk a little bit about what I see as the challenges for women who are seeking elected office. The first, of course, is fundraising, and that's been alluded to by several of the previous speakers. And I often joke that if I had known in my 20s and 30s that I wanted to run for public office in my later 30s and 40s, I would have been an investment banker rather than a teacher, because then I would have not only had some money of my own, but I would have had a network of wealthy friends. For most women, we weren't investment bankers in our youth, and so we have to rely on our networks from the schools that our kids attend, or the park districts, or our churches, our synagogues. We have to rely on our sort of community-based and faith networks for the troops that will help us. And we don't have the kind of very wealthy friends that some, not all, but some of our male colleagues can turn to. If you have a network of millionaires that you can call on for your financial support in your campaign, you're in a much better place than if you have to get that money through small donations. But the small donations are really helpful, and to have a broad base of support once you're elected is an incredible advantage. But fundraising is a big issue. When I declared my candidacy in 2008 for an office where the primary was in March of 2010, in February of 2010, that first year we spent 20 hours a week at least making calls for money. I mean, that's what the dirty little secret of our democracy is: the higher up the food chain you go, the more time you have to spend making calls for money. It consumes an incredible amount of your time, unless you're independently wealthy. And of course, the other thing that's happening in our democracy is that more and more public officials are millionaires and billionaires. Yeah. That's not good. That's not good for our country. No. So raising money is surely one of the most important issues that we have to face. Let me just say too, in terms of encouraging women to run, we have to raise our girls differently, to be risk takers, and to be willing to fail, because you're not always going to win your election, as you heard. Lots of times good candidates don't win. Lots of times we work hard for very good people and they don't win. You have to be willing. We are more, I think, if not encouraging, tolerant of boys taking risks. We have to be willing to support our girls as they take those risks as well. So fundraising is a big part of it. And unfortunately, in this time and place, we have to spend an incredible amount of time raising money if we want to be successful, because it's usually the person who raises the most money who wins. The other issue that we face as women is media representation. I was first elected to office as an alderman. You're a local elected official, you're kind of under the radar. But again, the higher up the food chain you go, the more attention is devoted to you and your family and everybody you've ever been associated with. And the tenor of the coverage has gotten, at least in my view, progressively more mean-spirited and voracious. Let me just point out that we have a First Lady of the United States who's a Harvard Law School graduate, and a lot of the coverage about her is about her haircut, her bangs, right? Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right. And the fact that she wears sleeveless dresses. As a woman who's an elected official, I get a lot of questions about balancing my professional and personal life. Now, you tell me when was the last time you heard a man ask that question? How do you balance your professional and your personal life?
From a woman.
Men they rarely comment on, men's haircuts, their clothes, none of that. But, God bless Hillary Clinton, because she surely suffered a great deal from that kind of sexist coverage in the media, about the length of her hair and, whether or not she was wearing makeup that day, and the pantsuits that she wore, as if they had anything to do with her competence, her ability to lead the country. So, I encourage young women all the time to get involved in campaigns. You don't have to even be 18 years old, which is, of course, the age for voting. But you can stuff envelopes. You can make phone calls. You can get people to put out yard signs. And frankly, that's the future of our country. We have to get our young people engaged in the political process and hopeful about the outcomes for the values that they believe in. So I'm very grateful to all of you for your time and attention today, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.